Good afternoon. We are looking at doing a periodic table meet and greet today, where the whole goal is for you guys to do these three things. Number one, you're going to walk around the room making some observations about elements that are on the periodic table. Number two, you're going to work on a periodic table activity. And when you do that, that's an activity that looks like this. The sub will hand that out to you. You should do that second after you finish making all of your observations, because if you don't get to this in class, you can always do that for homework. Number three, there is this homework assignment 5.2 review and reinforce, which will also be handed out to you today in class. That goes pretty quick. But the main focus of today is making sure that we do the observations for the elements that are in the room. In order to do that, this is what the actual start of this looks like, where we're going to be doing part one today. And part one just simply means you're going to walk around, take a look at the elements that are in the room, and write down all of the things that are required to write down. So, for example, you're going to be given a data table. That data table is a periodic table that is completely blank. Looks like that. Okay? When you have that, what you're going to write down on that is the symbol, the name of the element, what color it is, what phase is it at room temperature, does it have a luster or not, that means is it shiny, and then finally classify it as a metal or non-metal. In addition to that, if there's any other interesting facts that you would want to write down about it, feel free to do so. When you walk around the room, what you will see is you will see a card on the table that looks something like this. So that's copper. It's element number 29. It's one of the earliest known metals. Very good conductor of heat and electricity, and it's oftentimes used in architecture for its electrical conductivity. Okay. You can also see copper, and when you see copper, the visual for that would look like this somewhere. There we go. That's what copper looks like. So we have samples of all these elements in the room. It's got the number on it, it's got the symbol on it, it's got the name on it. A couple of things that are really important when you are walking around in the room. Number one, do not tip them over on the side like this. They will be sitting upright when you are walking around in the room. They should remain upright all the time. Number two, if you do pick it up, you can pick it up and look at it, but there's no need to shake them. There's no need to take the cap off of any of them. Some of them, if you remove the cap, they are toxic, they are poisonous, and it can be harmful to us in the school environment. Do not take the top off. Do not shake them. Leave them in the upright position. If you really need to look at it, get down at its level and look at it. You don't have to pick them up. You don't have to turn them around. You don't have to roll them around on the table. Just look at them. That's all you're doing, is looking at them. Make sure that you are recording the information that you're supposed to record. So the name, symbol, color, what phase is it? This is obviously a solid. Is it a lustrous? And is it a metal or non-metal? If you are doing this lab to simply write down all of the information and get it into the boxes and be done, you're not doing it right. The purpose of us doing the observations is so that you start to see how the periodic table was made. You should start to see patterns. You should start to see repetition. You should start to see that elements that are a certain color are in one place of the periodic table. Elements that have a luster are in a different part of the periodic table. Elements that are metals are in a different part of the periodic table. So the whole goal of doing the lab is for you to start to compare and contrast one element to the next element so that you start to get an idea of where they're grouped on the periodic table. That's the purpose for doing it, not just simply to get things written down. I would create a little key to make this go a little bit faster for you. And there are 2 elements that we can't put out in the room due to their toxicity and nature. They won't allow us to anymore. We used to back in the day. And those 2 elements are as follows. Chlorine. So there will not be chlorine out when you walk around the room. Here's some interesting information about chlorine. It comes from the Greek word chloros. It's heavier than air. It's a poisonous gas, and it can be fatal when used. So if I had to fill out my periodic table, I would go and find box number 17, because that's where chlorine is, and I would put in all of those things that I'm supposed to put in, which means when I'm done, it's going to look like this. I wrote in here chlorine. I did write down its symbol, and I noticed there's a little 2 on it. When I had its symbol there, it had a little 2 by it. See, Cl2? So I wrote that down when I wrote it in the box, because that was an important part of the symbol. I have its color right here. It's yellow-green. I did write down a couple of interesting facts. And then right here, I'm going to zoom in on this box for a moment. But I wrote NM. So I'm going to either write M or NM in that box, because that means metal or not metal. And then next to that, I would put a G, L, or S. In this case, I put a G because chlorine is a gas. L means liquid, and S would mean solid. So this is where I was identifying what phase it's in. And then right here for luster, I said that chlorine does not have a luster. So I said no. So for luster, I said no. And this works really nice. I got the name, the symbol, the color, metal or non-metal, phase at room temperature, and if it has a luster or not. Plus I included some interesting facts about chlorine as I went through and recorded that. If you take that blank table and flip it over to the back, this is where you can record any transition elements, transition group elements on the back. So there's a front and a back. So for example, it goes 1920, and then right here where it says 21 to 30, flip it over, there's 21 to 30. And then you can go 31, 32, 33, and so on. So the other element that we were not able to show you is the element mercury. We can't put that out. So this is what mercury looks like. It is number 80 on your periodic table. It's got a little luster to it. Mercury, the symbol is Hg, and here's some interesting facts. It's the only metal that is a liquid at room temperature. Once time people thought it would be one of the things that could promote life, but as it turns out, it's poisonous and toxic, which is why I can't have it out in the room. So on my periodic table, what I wrote was as follows. Mercury, Hg, it's silver. It was used to heal, but it was caused death and made people go crazy. It is a metal. It is a liquid. And yes, it has a luster. So I kept the same little code so I could get everything put into the boxes. And then that's what you're doing today. You're walking around the room and you're going to do something similar to what I have right there for the other elements that are in the room. Make sure you get them all. We will take a lab quiz on this, and the lab quiz will be asking you to find information that you wrote down today. So it is important that you take your time, do the best job possible, make sure you write legibly so that you can see everything that's in those boxes, because you're going to have to find that information when you're taking your lab quiz. At this point in time, you should have your data table for looking at the lab. Keep in mind, don't pick them up, don't take the tops off, don't shake them, leave them on the table. Take your time when making observations. When you finish making all of your observations today, there is a periodic table activity that you can move on to. And then finally, there is an assignment that you can do once you get that far.